be talking about my topic, which is acids and bases. Okay, so before we begin with what an acid and base is, one important thing to know is what the pH scale is. So basically, a pH is a measurement of how acid or alkaline a solution is. When you're looking at the pH scale, it's a range from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral. Some examples to understand this clearer. For instance, neutral would be pure water, where it's neither acidic or alkaline. Example of an acid is, your acid in your stomach. It has a pH of 2, which just helps kill the bacteria. And then your acid in the acid rain is pH of 4. And then for like an alkaline example, washing fluid, like we wash, our dishes or anything like that with, there is pH is 9. And then bleach, everybody knows bleach. Its pH is 12. There are a couple of different ways to measure pH. First thing is you would have an indicator, and this indicator are chemical dyes that change color. So different colors will have different pHs. So if it's one color, that's its pH, and if it's another color, such as like yellow or something like that, it's a different pH. These indicators are often known as wide range indicators, because most of the time you're measuring the pH and you see that it'll start slowly changing a different color from one color. That's why it's known that. Okay, and then a second would be a pH probe that's plugged into a pH meter. So what you would do, you would put the probe into like your acid or whatever to test it. The reason why more people use this is because it's more accurate and precise. Because a lot of times you're using your own judgment to look at the colors if you're using an indicator. And sometimes the human eye can catch stuff different from different people. So it's always good to be more accurate. Okay, so what is an acid? So an acid is any substance that forms in aqueous solution with pH that is less than 7. So better understanding is that acids release hydrogen ions in water. That's why its pH is lower. Bases are any substance with a pH greater than 7. So, as we learned in class, it's we call it alkalines. Well, technically, an alkaline is a subgroup of a base, so it's still a base, but we call it alkalines. So an alkaline is a base that dissolves in water to form a solution with a pH greater than 7. And these form hydroxide ions in water. When we react an acid and a base together, it would get a neutral reaction, which this means that in this neutral reaction, when an acid and base reacts together, you would always get a salt and water. So an example of this would be this equation right here. You have your acid and your base. Once these two react, it will get a salt and a water, which makes this a neutralization reaction. Some common acids that are used that are good to remember because they're common is you have your hydrochloric acid, your sulfuric acid, and your nitric acid. And then some common bases that are used are sodium hydroxide and calcium carbonate. This is not, I'm not saying this is all of them. This is just some common ones that are used. There's a bunch of them out there. So yeah. So this is what my presentation is of acids and bases.